Okay, you ready, Miss Only? I got 4 o'clock.
Ready.
Okay, I'm called to order the November 9th, 2021 Rules and Appointment Committee. If you would please call the roll.
Malinowski.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Mackey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next item of business, number 2, approval of the minutes from October 19th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion or any changes from the staff? Hearing none, Ms. Only, if you call for the vote?
Malinowski.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, adoption of the agenda. Ms. Only, anything else to change or add or delete from that?
No, sir.
Nothing. Hearing nothing then, and if my colleagues don't have anything, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Only?
Malinowski.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd also like to welcome our colleague, Mr. Derek Pugh, who is here in attendance as well. Item number 4, items for action. 4A, all council contracts and agreements adopted by a majority vote of full council will require a majority vote of full council to amend and or change. The information we have for that is on page 13. I don't know that I saw anything different on page 13 than what we had been provided before.
It's a little change in the verbiage. I think initially she had about plurality as a part of the description, and instead she used for an example.
Okay.
So it was just she made the changes based upon our recommendation.
The problem I personally see with this is that on page 13 in that first line halfway through where it starts, it says a motion to temporarily suspend any rule requiring a majority vote shall require unanimous consent of those present. You can have somebody come in and say, I'd like to have this item added to the agenda from a committee or from whoever, and or example, tonight, the agenda has been made up and handed out, and we've got this District 4 hospitality tax amendment. I don't know that we need approval, but all it takes is one vote to say no, and then something doesn't get on.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It's my recollection from the last committee meeting, we did discuss the change, but then I think we held in committee to hear a little bit more from the maker of the motion, Mr. Livingston. But it was my, I guess, interpretation of the motion was really, as he states, looking at contracts and agreements. So when a contract agreement is approved by council or majority, that then we can't go back later and change said contract without having full approval. Does that make sense? Because I think what he's saying is that there has been cases where after a contract has been approved, then it comes back and the changes are made to the contract without having unanimous consent or having less than the majority of votes.
That's correct. However, I know Robert's rules allows us to do that, and it's exactly what's put in here, a plurality vote. And the fact that that was stated prior to the vote being taken, then any individuals that had a problem and didn't like that could have made a substitute motion that, hey, I believe that we need to pass this by a majority vote. But nobody did. So, it's anyone's fault that didn't speak up at that time, because I've been guilty of that myself. After the fact, I ask legal something and they say, hey, you needed to do it at that time. It's too late. Well, shame on me. And so that's why I'm not so sure we need to reinvent the wheel when the opportunity is already there to correct what is being stated in this motion. Mr. Livingston.
I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, but we need to at least take some spokes out of it. My concern is I just think it's unfair for a body to make a decision with a majority of council and then undo that decision with a minority of council, in some cases with 4 members. You know, for example, we could hire an administrator. Our rule says that requires a majority vote. But if we continue to do business like we're doing now, we could come out of executive session and get rid of that person with 4 votes. Technically, that's totally unfair, and our rules should not allow that.
I'd like to just make a clarification there, Mr. Livingston. And you can only get rid of that person with 4 votes if, when the motion is made, it says the person that gets the majority of the votes cast. All you have to do is speak up and say, no, I believe that we need, if we're going to remove the administrator or whoever it is, that it needs to be done by majority vote. And so I have a substitute motion saying we do a majority vote.
But if I'm a part of the person who want to keep that particular person, why am I going to allow that person to be dismissed with 4 votes? Why is that fair to me to accept the opinion of the minority?
I just said.
And why is it fair to the? Let me finish. And why is it fair to the individual who was hired? The same thing with contracts. You could vote and give someone a contract and undo it with 4 votes. And I'm just simply saying that's not fair to council members, and it's not fair to individuals who got a majority vote of council, and then all of a sudden it's undue because someone figured out a way to undo it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying, because you can do away with having 4 members control the vote by merely stating, I make a substitute motion that in order to eliminate that job, that contract, that person, we need a majority vote. Then you vote on that, and if you get a majority there, fine, then you take your majority vote.
But you shouldn't have to go through that, though.
Ms. Barron?
Yeah, I guess the whole point here is, so let's just use, and I'm not for using administrative as an example. We love you. We don't want to get rid of you. Okay, let's just say that. Okay, but anyway, seriously, back to my point. I think that being a new council member, and if you're a new council member and you don't know the rules, you're already placed at a disadvantage. So if I don't know that I need to do a substitute motion to undo something, then now I'm placed at a disadvantage to that council member who does know. And I think that if we keep it really clear in our rules what can and cannot happen, because I know before I came on council, I read the rules. I read the rules, and then I read, tried to be as familiar with Robert's Rule of Order as possible. But, to be frank, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Malinowski, you guys know, how this works. So it does place a novice at a disadvantage to be able to work this system. And so I hear you saying that all you have to do, but if you don't know that you need to do that, then God forbid we get the wrong person who has an ulterior motive to be able to come in here and undo something that the majority has already put forth. So I do understand the motion that is being put forth.
I understand it also, especially the actual motion up above under subject matter where it's stated there. So if this gets sent, or I should say when this gets sent to the full council, do we want to just send the motion as it is listed up there, which is actually just that first line, not the note portion? That all county council, this is, I think, what Mr. Livingston is trying to achieve, and it's that sentence up above. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Livingston, that says all county council contracts and agreements adopted by a majority vote of full council will require a majority vote of full council to amend and or change. That's what he wants. Okay, so that would be what we are voting on. If you are so deemed to want to vote on that now, I would entertain a motion. If you want to discuss it further, that's fine also.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. I can agree with that to a point. I'm only going to vote no to keep it off consent in case there's discussion wanted up there and we don't slip it through. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Only?
Malinowski.
No.
Barron.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That passes. Put that in favor. Next item is 4B, Boards, Committees, and Commissions Recruitment. Number B1, direct the Rules Committee to determine which boards, committees, and commissions should have as a qualification that the person applying must reside in the unincorporated area of Richland County only. There are some of these positions where other municipalities appoint individuals, and if a person applying for one of those positions resides in that municipality, then they should make application through them. And number 2, actually, we can address that separately if you'd like to. It actually goes with it. For the information that I went through this, and with the exception of where it states there that there are some municipalities that appoint to the committees and commissions, the ones that I got that I felt should be strictly unincorporated Richland County ones, based on the fact that any action taken by those boards, committees, or commissions affects only unincorporated Richland County. These are the ones that I came up with. And it's I think Board of Zoning Appeals. It's, BOZA, Building Codes Board of Appeal, Planning Commission, A-Tax and H-Tax, the Internal Audit Committee, and the Procurement Review Panel. That provides the information that was asked for. There's no action that needs to be taken at this point. If the members would like to go back and look at those committees and see, unless somebody has come up with something else that I missed. Look at those committees and see. I kind of given examples before, and just a quick example, taking 2 of them, accommodations and hospitality taxes. The other municipalities, they also collect those same taxes, and they have committees that dictate where and how those taxes are dispersed. We here in the county also do that through a committee, but we share with the other municipalities. And I just don't think it would be right for someone from another district, from another municipality, who does not ever share with the unincorporated portion, to put someone on one of those boards to maybe have them say, hey, see if you can get us more money over here. Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Malinowski, my concern about hospitality tax has more to do with not whether you're located in the city or the county, but where you're providing the service. And I think it'll be a great mistake when you have some entities in this city that provide a service that the county may not provide. For example, the museums and different places located in the city, but they have programs out in the county. So you don't want to say to those folks, well, we're not going to give you any money, so you can't do county programs, and nobody else will do the programs. And we've had this debate over and over and over again.
I'm not saying they shouldn't get the funds. They do get the funds. They get up to 25% of the tax collected on each tax.
But what are you saying then?
This is an item that's to determine whether or not individuals from outside of or who don't reside in unincorporated Richland County should be a member of these boards, committees, and commissions. When their decision will affect unincorporated residents, then it's, my opinion is, and that's where this came about, that's why my motion, because if you are making a decision that affects me, yet you have no skin in the game and it never will affect you, then I don't believe you should be part of the decision-making process. That's
Chair.
all I'm saying.
And that means that, let's take like our township board, which has city appointees and county appointees.
Which one?
The township, which is located in the city,
Which board?
the township auditorium, which has city and county.
They're not on the list. That's why they're not on the list, because they serve them all, and we need people from all areas to make decisions.
And I apologize, Sue, what page is your list on?
Oh,
He
I
just
just
gave
gave
it
it to
us.
you
It's
now.
not on the
It's what
page.
I just read.
No one, oh, that's why I couldn't find it.
It's not on here. Miss Only will put that in the next agenda.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Maggie.
So I think the one that, I'm going to go back and look at your list of the other ones, but I know right now the one I still have a little issue with is the Planning Commission. And I think we've talked about that the last meeting, but, going back to our current ordinance, we talk about that. And I do think there's an argument to be made for having both on the Planning Commission, unincorporated or incorporated into a municipality or whatever, on the Planning Commission. I do think it's our job to make sure, as we are selecting people, that we're not selecting people who all may live in municipality. But I do think, for example, going back, like I talked about in my district, there are parts of my district that are City of Columbia, but right across the street, it's Richland County. And they care about what's being developed right across the street outside of their subdivision. They are very much involved, and they care about the growth that is happening all around them because it's only their subdivision that is in the City of Columbia. And so I do think with the Planning Commission, there is a lot more consideration that can be given before we say, no, we can't have anyone else on that one.
Well, and of course, that'll be up to the full council when this gets sent to them. Ms. Barron, were you getting ready to speak?
I wanted you to know that Miss English is online with her hand raised.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even look there. Ms. English, go ahead and let's hear what you have to say. Thank you, Ms. Barron. I'm not sure that I heard her clearly. Can somebody give me the summary there? So I know it had to do with disability.
Yeah, no, she gave an example of her current position now, that when they look at appointing for a board, they do a percentage. And so she's saying that it's a disability board, and that they say that 60% of folks serving on the board should have a disability. And so she stated that it may be a good idea to consider a percentage instead of saying all or none. And I guess to kind of respond to that, I think currently the ordinance that we have related to the Planning Commission fits that. There's not a number, but it does give consideration to either or, as it's currently stated. But that was her comment.
Well, then, Ms. Only, you'll get that in the minutes. So we'll have everybody be able to read that. Thank you, Ms. English and Ms. Barron.
Yeah, I'm still having some challenges with this. Just as I stated before, I get the intent of the motion. However, I just go back to, I live in Blythewood, but I have no say so in the town of Blythewood. I live in an unincorporated area, but I have absolutely no say. Like, they had the election on last week,
Right.
but that doesn't include me. And it's the same. I think it's the same thing when we look at whether someone has a business or, if they live in Richland County. And we cannot take away the fact that Richland County has 7 municipalities as a part of it. And whether they have, those municipalities have representation or have their own committees or councils, I think is just probably irrelevant to the point that we are the bigger piece here that people fit into. So I'm not comfortable with this at this point. And perhaps I think maybe we don't need a one size fits all when it comes to looking at this list that we're talking about.
Like you, I have a Chapin mailing address, and a mile down the road is a Irmo mailing address. I can't vote in either one of those municipalities, and they don't want me to, and they don't want my input even at a public hearing. They could care less what I have to say. And so that's where I'm kind of hanging my head on this one. I understand what Ms. Mackey's saying regarding across the street is Columbia, but do you think when it comes to Columbia, if it's a piece of property over there and they want to do something regarding rezoning, that they're going to turn around and ask the folks on the other side that are unincorporated Richland County, hey, what do you think about this? No, they're going to listen to the people that come into the public hearing like we do, and they're going to then let their council vote on it without the real input from anybody. You couldn't sit on the Columbia Council, nor could I, just like we can't sit on any other municipality council. They exclude us from theirs because we don't reside in the municipality. And while these people reside in Richland County, they don't reside in unincorporated Richland County, where the action will affect the people. So that's all.
Mr. Chair, I definitely understand what you're saying, and I think going back to my example in my district across the street, and you're right, maybe the city doesn't think about it, but I think as the county, as the leader, we should. And I think it's our job as we consider how the county is growing, and as we look at right now, we're all going through our land code rewrite, and we have to think about it holistically in a big picture of how our county looks, how's it growing. And that means we have to think about both sides of the street. And so they may not, but we should. We really do. And so I guess my next question is to you. So for this motion, you listed 7. Are you suggesting to change your motion to only include those 7? Or how do the 7 that you provided play into this motion because they're not specified?
Well, I said in there to determine which boards, committees, and commissions should have as a qualification that a person must reside in unincorporated county only. So those are the 7 that I have come up with. That's the determination that I have come up with, those 7.
So, question for you.
I got you, Paul.
With that, the motion states that it would be determined. So although you've given us a list of 7, after the fact, we could determine that there's only 4. After the fact, we could determine that there's 50. So the motion is to figure out where this applies to, correct?
That's correct.
So essentially, the 7 have nothing. It's good information to know. It's good information to know, but we could dig a little bit deeper to see that this could be impacted in other areas. So with the motion as it is, it's just merely to allow, and I don't know who, but allow someone to fact find as to what is the list, that list that would be included here, correct?
Well, yeah, I came up with 7. If the clerk has additional ones after doing research, or if y'all have additional ones, or if y'all feel something shouldn't, that's the purpose of discussing it and putting this forward now. We're not taking any action or sending this to council at this point. We need to determine if we feel any of these or other ones do or don't belong on the list that would be affected by the creation of additional wording in our ordinance. That's what we're trying to determine.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and just so we're clear,
Okay.
I don't think the planning commission needs to be included in the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Livingston.
Let me try to explain, why it is the way it is. Keep in mind, you're correct. Someone in, you cannot vote for someone in the city of Columbia if you're in the unincorporated area. But someone in the city of Columbia can.
Recording in
vote,
progress.
for someone outside of the city limits. Keep in mind, that's because if you're in the city of Columbia, you're in Richland County too. But more important than that is, keep in mind, if you're in the city of Columbia, Farms Lake, or wherever, you pay county taxes. And you ought to have representation for your taxes. You take, for example, 25% of your general fund revenue, approximately 25% of your general fund revenue comes from folks who reside in the city. That's why you're paying for it. You don't pay city taxes if you're not in the city. So I think that's the distinction we have to keep in mind when we consider this.
Okay, I understand. I also understand that if I want to pay more taxes, I can move to the city. That's a choice that I and everyone make. Ms.
But you
Barron?
still pay county taxes even if you move to the city. You don't get out of your county taxes.
I know that. I don't get bus service either, but I'm paying for that.
You have an option to get it. You choose not to.
May I be recognized?
Yeah, I did. I already said, Ms. Barron, go ahead.
So I'm going back to my previous statement. And the motion as it is to determine. So if it is to be determined, then I would like to think that once we create this list, then that in return needs to go before full council.
Yeah, it's going to.
Okay, because that I think that's the missing piece.
Well, no, it's automatic. Anything from committees have to go before a full council.
I understand, but we're talking about it as if this 7 is final, or this list
No,
is
I never
final.
said that.
So I just want to be clear about what we're doing. What we're doing is making a recommendation to determine a list, and then from after we determine the list, then we will take that list back to council to see if they agree on it.
If they agree on it, see if they want to make any additions or deletions to it, correct?
Okay, very well. I'm good now.
One final comment. Now keep in mind, our current rules do not prevent us from selecting every person on any committee from within the unincorporated area of the county. If you want to select every person right now, the way our rules are stated, from the unincorporated area for the planning commission, for any commission we currently have the authority to do that as a body. We don't have to change anything to do that. We just vote for folks in unincorporated areas.
Gotcha. Okay, so I guess we'll, Ms. Only, if you'll just word this out, that I provided those, and if you'd like to, if any committee members want to do, and of course, Ms. Mackey thinks planning commission should not be in there, and if anybody, give other input to the clerk's office before we have our next meeting, and we'll go from there.
Ms. Chair, just also to point out and remind that we talked about it, I think, before, but there are committees that are in our ordinances that are not being listed, advertised, and so at some point, I'm not sure if that was addressed in your list or if you looked at it or not, but I just want to make sure the clerk includes that in her report when we are identifying all committees.
I was actually going to address that when he got finished.
Thank you.
Those are committees that we have never appointed to since I've been here. They're inactive. So they either need to be removed or we need to amend the ordinance somewhat. That's why I included your ordinance that you sent me so that we could review that.
Ms. Mackey, if you'd like to, for the next meeting, to the clerk's office that information.
The ordinances that I need to
The
see the
agencies,
ordinances?
the agencies that you have noticed that we don't appoint because they're inactive, and Ms. Only has that already. I guess from this committee, we could send it to the council or send it to the chair and ask him to make a determination if these committees need to be totally eliminated or if they need to remain on the list with just an inactive note next to them or something.
And I would even like to say that they might not have been active 15 years ago, but there may be some need for them now. The one that I look at that just came to mind, it's amazing, it's letter G, but it's the Richland County Youth Commission. I'm all for bringing that back, but we don't appoint
Yeah, I don't
for it.
recall ever doing anything with them.
And so as we create this list, I would like for us to discuss that in committee, and then make a recommendation to full council and to the chair.
And then let me add on to that, if I may, Ms. Barron, on page 15, down at near the bottom, section 2-329, where it says concurrent service on multiple boards, et cetera, prohibited. And the second line, it says, however, in the event a person was serving on February 2nd, 1977, I don't believe we really have anybody. I kind of think those are the things we need to strike out of there to make it a little more updated.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And so just so I'm clear, so this currently is an ordinance, is that correct? And so in order for us to change that, then we need to bring that before you with new language to be voted on, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Once we've hashed it out here, we can ask legal to create it or to leave it alone. All right, if there's no further discussion on anything, because for B1 and 2, they actually go together, and we've discussed all that, so,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Ms. Only, is there any update as far as attendance? That was one of the other issues that was brought about from the ordinance.
You say attendance
Correct,
on these committees?
correct.
Did you see it in here?
It is in there, but we have not been doing it, and so I was wondering if there's
Yeah.
any update on Ms. Only as far as notification to said committees now? Have you notified them to make them come in compliance? Any update? That's,
I haven't yet.
Okay.
I was waiting till we got the board's descriptions down pat, and then I was gonna send each entity their description and then send them, information telling them they needed to provide that, all at the same time.
And
But it's on my
Ms.
radar.
Maggie, I think rather than wait till we get these board descriptions down, I think that we need to have the clerk's office query all these boards and agencies and say, can you give us the list of the representatives you have and what's their attendance record been for the last 12 months? And let's get ahead of the curve. If we see a committee that people are consistently not showing up and having a quorum like the Penny Tax Committee, then we need to do something about it.
I would even say, Mr. Chair, that definitely gathering this information would be helpful. But I'm wondering if these committees and these boards even know that this attendance requirement even exists.
And that could be the preface to the email that goes out. There is an attendance requirement for all boards, committees, and commissions. We therefore are asking you to provide us attendance records for all of your members.
I'll work on getting that before the meeting in December.
All right, anything else? I think we're done now that Mr. Overture Walker's here. We don't need him to hear anything. You gonna say something, Ms. Mackey?
no, I was just gonna talk about the application period, because we're still open right now, and just confirm that our next meeting, will we be doing interviews at that point?
No, ma'am, the first meeting that we'll be taking up interviews will be the December meeting. The deadline is after the next meeting. The
Okay.
deadline's the November 19th, and the next meeting's the 16th, so.
Anything else from anyone?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn, Ms. Only?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone attending and the Zoom meeting there.